Hardcore action RPGs of the highest quality used to be reserved for Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and other FromSoftware titles, hence the moniker Souls-likes. However, in the past 5 to 10 years, which equates to 1 or 2 development cycles, we have seen other studios create very compelling experiences. Titles like Lies of P, Remnant, Nioh, and Star Wars Jedi not only have high levels of quality, but also plenty of fresh ideas. The First Berserker Khazan earns its place alongside of these other genre standouts. It might have flaws which are likely due to the inexperience the studio has with creating a game of this size and scope, but with an engaging storyline about treason aided by excellent voice acting, rewarding combat, and enough fresh ideas make this an easy recommendation to genre veterans and newcomers alike. The First Berserker Khazan is a hardcore action RPG from Nioh, the studio behind Dungeon Fighter Online, or as it's known in South Korea, Dungeon End Fighter, which is a free-to-play 2D anime side-scrolling beat-em-up. If you're wondering why the last Berserker Khazan would be based on a 10-year-old franchise with average reviews, it's because it supposedly has been played by over 850 million and has generated over $22 billion as of 2023. If you're like me and you've never heard of it, don't worry, your enjoyment won't be affected in the slightest. The First Berserker Khazan tells the story of the great general who is revered for saving his empire from the Berserk Dragon. However, he has now been charged with treason, has been imprisoned, tortured, and sentenced to death. Through a twist of fate and on the brink of death, Khazan must make a pact with an evil, otherworldly entity and form a bond that will give the great general powers beyond the mortal realm on his quest for revenge. Khazan is a Souls-like and there is no hiding the inspiration. Core staples are here such as very demanding combat, heavy attack, light attack, upgrading core stats through lacrima, mobs that can quickly overwhelm you, bosses that will live inside your head rent-free, and of course checkpoint bonfires or nexus blades where you can rest and enemies will respawn. The First Berserker makes a strong first impression with its anime-inspired 3D cel-shaded art style, but it gets amplified with a very strong cinematic feel. The voice acting across the board is spectacular, especially Ben Starr, who voices the lead role of the great General Khazan. All of these elements create a cohesive sense of style and confidence. Combat is extremely satisfying, precise, and is strongly focused around a parry system requiring damaging stamina or posture before truly being able to deal great damage. Luckily, combat always feels fair and, as such, even more rewarding. Part of the reason that combat feels as good as it does is because of the 3 classes: the dual blades, the great sword, and the spear. All 3 of these weapons feel extremely viable and drastically different. The spear, which is the weapon that I eventually settled on, has a very fast attack speed that does lower physical damage but high stamina damage, which will get the bosses into a fatigue state, which is where you can deal massive damage, and it also works best from range. You have a weapon-specific skill tree, a shared skill tree no matter the weapon of choice, in addition to character leveling that includes genre essentials like vitality or strength, as well as unique skills to learn and bind to keys. A true RPG is only as good as its loot, and there is plenty of loot to find. One of the great parts of the First Berserker is its gear system. There are plenty of different gear sets to find or craft, assuming that you've found the blacksmith and the blueprint. Each set comes with different perks, and the more gear per set that you equip, the more bonuses will stack, and they are meaningful. You also have the ability to upgrade your gear, augment it, and transmogrify it. Despite being a hardcore action RPG, the First Berserker Khazan has plenty of quality of life features and accessibility options. For instance, it's easy to reset your core stats by using a primeval regression orb, which are fairly common. You can also at any time without penalty unlearn skills on any of your skill trees. Bosses are an area where hardcore action RPGs demand the most from players. One great feature is that you are still awarded a small amount of lacrima or souls after dying at the hands of a boss, which means that after 10 or so tries you might have enough to level up 1 stat. If anything, it's more of a mental reward. Finally, there is an easy mode, which purists might argue against, but it allows more people to play the game, which is better for the developers and provides a higher chance of success, which leads to a higher chance of a sequel. I tried on both modes, and easy is still a very tough challenge. It might allow for minor mistakes, but at least it's not relentless and unforgiving like normal mode. As unique and at times awe-inspiring as the visuals can be, they lack variety and can begin to feel monotonous. Although you do travel from snow-covered mountains to burning villages, cathedrals, and many other locations, They all feel similar thanks to a reliance on a gray and brown color palette. The monotonous feeling is continued with repeated enemies, which could have been avoided if the first Berserker was a little shorter. A longer game didn't equate to a better experience. Khazan was also littered with invisible walls, but more problematic was so many areas where you could easily accidentally fall to your immediate death, at times without any cues from the game. Khazan also required a fair bit of platforming across precarious areas, which was never satisfying and almost always led to frustration. Finding loot in video games is a very satisfying feeling, and Khazan has plenty for you to discover around the world, but I have a hard time thinking of a treasure chest opening animation that felt as lackluster as this one did. It didn't explode with color when it got opened, it wasn't bursting at the seams with a glowing aura, and the hero didn't punch through it with his fist to open it like in God of War, it just opened uneventfully. The bosses also had quite the sporadic difficulty curve, as it was always unknown whether the challenge was going to be greater or less than the previous boss. When looking at the checklist, Khazan checks all of the boxes of an essential hardcore action RPG, but it isn't a lazy attempt to capitalize on the two massive audiences of Dungeon Fighter Online and Souls-likes. Instead, there is enough proof evident that this team not only did the research about what the best in the genre do, but also what is missing. The first Berserker Khazan is a very strong franchise debut that stands out from the deluge of FromSoftware facsimiles. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and find a lot more like it. Video games is a positivity-first gaming outlet. We believe that gaming should be a force for good. We focus on making uplifting content with constructive discussions and celebrating what makes games great. That's all for today, and until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.